On Morning Prime, 6 o'clock on the nose, and I'm glad that you've chosen to break your morning here with us here on KTN News. My name is Dibal Ainer. It is, of course, the second day of December 2022, and we continue to observe the 16 days of gender-based violence activism that every world now is turning its focus on the plight of women. And this will culminate to the 10th of December, where it shall be the Human Rights Day. But even as we continue with this conversation, we continue to look at what is happening on the leadership front. And right now, the task force has submitted its report regarding the CBC. And there is a shocker there where we know that CBC the grade 6 will not proceed to secondary school, but it will remain in primary school as it is. You know about the locations. CS Magoha, the former immediate CS of Education, was, of course, going about the country launching classes for this transition, but that transition now has been halted and reversed by President William Ruto. But generally looking at CBC moving forward with it, what is the future of CBC? The government had promised not to scrap CBC, so to speak, but of course questions were raised on its implementation. It's a good idea, resources also lacking, but how then do we support the parents who have also been saddled with this responsibility of making sure they are actively involved in the education of their pupils and students as well? Right, we want to look at that and a raft of other issues as well. The permanent secretaries, or the principal secretaries, I should say, right now, all of them have been vetted. And this is after the High Court lifted that particular, or gave a determination regarding the petition that the Law Society of Kenya had actually tabled there, questioning the constitution of these principal secretaries, that it does not represent the face of Kenya. Well, also the GMO debate continues apace, but the importation of it has been stopped for now. And this was a pronouncement from, of course, the president himself. Well, we have a panelist already here in studio. Ambrose Weda Wakili has been missing in action, fresh from Kisumu, right? I can smell some fish. You've been around fish?
Yes. Yes.
But you know also fish at Lake Victoria had been threatened. Yes, because of issues to do with the climate, other areas there overfishing. I think in also Homa Bay. Is it Homa Bay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Good morning, fellow Kenyans.
Beta, actually.
Along local and abroad, I think you are doing well. I'm also doing great. The biggest freshwater lake in Africa, Lake Victoria. One thing that you do if you eat that fish from that lake,
yes,
the level of IQ has been known to go high. That's why when you hear that people like Weda come from the land of the professors and the vice chancellors, it is not by mistake or chance. It is real. But I think, you know, God did not intend that we eat naturally. We pick, hunt, and gather. He intended that we be fruitful. He gave us, everything he gave us was a seed. So he gave us the seed of the fish, and then we are supposed to multiply it. So you'll find now there are cages in the lake, huge cages. But if you are just to fish, everybody fishing, you are looking for chicken, you go to you will eat the seed, and once you eat the seed, it becomes extinct, and we are done. So Kenyans should learn to continuously be fruitful. How do you be fruitful? The King of Kings gave us the seeds. So we use the seeds to multiply it so that we bear fruit. Yes, so that even we welcome the great son of Nyakach. The only thing they were taught is late coming, besides. Welcome, sir. But he's also from the lake, a very brilliant man.
What is your span of attention span is so short? There's a concentration problem. Where there's a concentration
No, you have disrupted us. The roulette coming.
No.
Is the attention spot is that of a crocodile?
Coming early, whether coming early is a means to an end. It's not an end in itself. So that when you became the host of the program, to announce when others arrive, I think you have a concentration problem that you need to look at.
Welcome to the great side of Africa. He also comes to the land of the fish.
Land of the fish.
Yes, the other side. We are on this side near Kisumu town, they are on the other side. But we are saying the King of Kings gave us the seed.
But the people on beach have been eating all the seeds. That's why we have the government intervening right now because of overfishing in Beta.
We need to preach the good news of the kingdom to them. They need to understand the principles that the creator of all things had put. This thing of going there with the law to just pick, now that's not what Jehovah intended. He intended you use it as a seed, you propagate the fingerlings, you take care of them, you feed them, and you get more fish to feed his other children. But this one of just going to pick when you have come late, no.
Let's hear from Kipruto Raukirwa. It's been a good a week, highs and lows, of course, and we were here on Tuesday with you talking about some of these developments that have occurred so far, especially with the CBC and also the maize and the importation of it.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity, and good morning, Kenyans. I feel it is important for us really to summarize the week. One of the milestones that I feel has been very useful to me as a farmer and also coming from farming community is the fact that the government has rightly reconsidered the position of importation of maize, perhaps to February, to review the situation.
Yes.
Check the harvest that we might get from eastern Kenya and other parts that there is a bit of rain now, and settle on the figure. A number of other things have happened, and I'm happy that at least the fund was launched. And I would want those who are launching the fund to appreciate that when we make comments, we are assisting the fund to be able to be more transparent and also Kenyans to uptake in a way that we do not fall into our mistakes of borrowing with no intention of paying. We are saying so because there are many other funds that the government intentionally has been launching from time to time, from the Youth Development Fund so many years ago, Youth Enterprise Fund, until the other day, Ways of Fund and many others. We should be able to learn from the mistakes of the past for us to be able to correct the situation because lending to Kenyans is good, but we also want Kenyans to develop a culture of when you borrow, you return whatever you borrowed once you make that profit. Yeah.
Because that is a revolving fund for the benefit of another. It's good that actually repay.
Yes, it is good they repay. And the saving culture, but perhaps the government should have had a moratorium that you borrow after a certain period when you have built a critical mass of what you borrowed and you have made a bit of money, then now you save. You don't save from what you borrowed. You save from what you've made. And if there is a bit of surplus, you save so that other Kenyans can also benefit, and also you can benefit in future, just like the retirement arrangements that many people go through, including members of parliament. And just for avoidance of doubt, members of parliament make a contribution. Personally, I used to make a contribution of 52,000 every month for the period that our good friend Oluwaringo brought that act to parliament, a bill to parliament that formed the Parliamentary Service Commission, a fund that is making those who are considered to have retired from politics live a decent life. Because otherwise members of parliament used to be miserable individuals once they leave the house, outside parliament, and in many other places. So I really thank God for the Honorable Oluwaringo and many other people who participated in that. I say so because we like writing obituaries when people are dead. But I just want to mention that about Oluwaringo, because he's one person who was very instrumental in setting up the Parliamentary Service Commission.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we have Dr. back also. He was away for a while. Good to see you, Dr. Isaac Alua Green, the party leader of GTAP. Tell us where you've been. Welcome back. What have you learned?
Thank you. The latest of where I've been, and before I lose it, I want to take this early opportunity to thank Ruto Arap Kirwa for the good job that he did as minister.
Thank you.
We keep forgetting sometimes,
Yes,
and it is always good to appreciate our people as they can hear. So keep up. I'm sure God will bless you, and what you started will definitely be supported by the future. But more so, I bring to you very warm greetings from Texas City. Texas is that place past Mexico, where Mexico is Machacos, so I'm talking about Kitui.
Okay.
It's a lot of rain.
Morona, Texas, also. There's in Dallas.
Yes.
That one is in Dallas.
Those ones
It's
you
not
only
Dallas.
find. Yes.
It's in Dallas,
Yes,
in Dallas,
yes,
Texas.
yes.
Mayacos.
So please accept very warm greetings from that place. Man, it's raining.
It's raining.
Oh, wonderful.
And rivers have a lot of water. And it's always amazing to see how people get happy, even though they may not have food in their houses and homes. But the freshness that comes with such rains is so amazing, and you find people are so happy. And therefore, please accept warm greetings from the people of Ukambani.
Indeed.
And they are joining Kenyans with a lot of hope, knowing that there is going to be food to be harvested. The beans have gone ahead to flower, and therefore very soon we expect that there will be a lot of harvest that is commensurate to the effort that people have put. But it is most amazing, and I talk about the rains because we have the best of the weather forecast in our country. The very best. In the region, in Africa, it's up to global standards, what the systems that we have invested in. But just as typical as it has always been, we know very well rains will be coming at a certain time, but we don't put equal effort to harvest the water. We don't put equal effort to assist our people to get the very best. It was amazing to see in Kitui, in Makueni, in Machakos, that most of the aggregates where they sell fertilizers, there was actually nothing. And it means that people have started understanding, knowledge is very clear, efforts that have been put to help people to understand the importance of using fertilizer, including the organic manure that people are using. They are embracing it. And therefore, it's something very good. I was happy also to, now that you ask where I was, I visited Thailand, glory to God. And it's a country that is doing so much, yet unknown, and particularly on health matters. You talk about India. These guys are doing so well on medical tourism. I went to a small hospital where they were doing 2,500 people per day in the tests, different tests, very efficient equipment. Reports are available in a day's time, and you can be able to know what you're doing over and above having an opportunity to deal in business. I think our health sector needs quite a lot, and enough has been done in terms of benchmarking, and therefore it's time to plan to work on all this. And you have also talked about CBC. What is most important as I finish this is the fact that we have so much in terms of planning. We have so much in terms of what we have planned to do, but we don't plan for it. CBC discussion should not look like a shocker 9 years later that we expected children to go in class and it's not clear when they are going, how they are going, what's going to happen. I think this is a place that we need to wake up and plan effectively for our children. If we don't work right for our children, really where are we going as a nation? And therefore we need to, those who have been put in responsibility institutions, they need to take up get work done. It's time to work.
Indeed.
It's time to get things done.
Fantastic. Welcome back. Let's hear from Churchill Suba. Also was a big week for the civil society, a huge conference that was here. You can tell us more about it? Well, you, I think when I was calling you, you were in a big meeting. So maybe you can highlight, I know.
I'm really not going to highlight
okay.
Much about the conference, but Dibal, I think as a country we have come a full cycle. This being the last episode of this program for this year, I think as a country we need to take stock of what has happened. Very, tumultuous year with elections and all these political processes going on, reforms in the education sector. We are glad that the people have prevailed. Of course, I've seen some headlines. Ruto reverses. It is not Ruto. It is the people of Kenya.
It is the people of Kenya.
Yeah, because these are, the ideas that people had all along. And unfortunately, during the introduction of CBC, the authorities never allowed the people to express what they felt about some of the aspects of the program. It is good that, by and large, the basic structure of the CBC has been retained. Whatever is being reversed are matters of detail. I do not think the issue is where the children will sit to study. The issue is what they will study. And so for me, I've always believed that CBC is a good thing. And that when the Kenyans were given a chance, from the youngest to the oldest, and we can see on front page of the Nation, a youngster giving their views about CBC, and that the task force largely reflected the report. It to a great extent reflects in a faithful way the positions that were expressed, and so the president affirmed that and largely agreed on what the people said. So having said that, I think it would also be important to add that as civil society, as media, we have lived by and large to the expectations. It's not by surprising that every time a polling is done as to which institutions the Kenyans trust, the media and the civil society, that successive governments in the last couple of years have not, recognized. As a sector, we are the least celebrated. We are not celebrated at all. Yet, we contribute immensely to the development of this country. We hope that, the new regime under President William Ruto will accord the civil society its rightful place. We know for a fact that a section of us worked with him during his campaigns. He made promises, for example, to implement the Public Benefit Organizations Act. That, for me, would be very, very critical in ensuring that the civil society secures for itself and for the people of Kenya, because civil society is about people, an enabling, regulatory and legal framework that harnesses their input towards, nation building and serving the public of Kenya.
Thank you. All right. Of course, those are long introductory remarks from our panelists as well, just giving also a snippet of what we're going to be discussing this morning, highlights of the week. And we just want to embark to what is headlining the front pages of the dailies before we settle down and discuss CBC Shoka for parents and teachers. That is what is on the front page of the bold paper this morning. Far-reaching review. After 3 days of sitting national exams, grade 6 learners will remain in primary schools for the next 3 years. And their results will only be used to identify gaps in the new curriculum. These are among the radical measures the government had adopted after recommendations from experts. And we have government, that is 5 government will recruit 30,000 teachers by January. Let me just go from the illustrations here where it begins so that I can take you there. Beginning with 1 junior secondary school, grade 7, grade 8 and grade 9 will be domiciled in the existing primary schools. Then the grade 6 Kenya Primary School Education Assessment will not be used for placement in junior secondary schools. Instead, it will be used to monitor learning process. An extra classroom and laboratory will be built in every primary school. The construction of laboratories will be given priority within the next 1 year. Then it's on the fourth point there, the Ministry of Education, KICD and TSC to fast-track training of teachers on CBC compliance. Priority will be given to those teachers who will be handling grade 7 learners. And then finally, government will recruit 30,000 teachers by January to facilitate the transition and bridge the shortage. That is the current state of play as far as CBC is concerned. People were having all these bugbears, trepidations and fear regarding where will be the next stop. But you can read all about it today inside the Standard on page 8, where it's stacked away. CBC shocker for parents and teachers. That is what is headlining the front page of the Standard. Frantic efforts save Kenya doping ban. At least relief for our athletes. We were also fearing that our athletes will be affected by the doping ban, and it seems there were good negotiations there by the sports fraternity. You have the story on page 4 of the Standard. Unanswered questions on 50 billion shillings Hustler Fund is another story that you want to follow inside the Standard today. Muturi defies Supreme Court. Okay, CDF. Muturi defies Supreme Court. Okay, CDF. That story on page 5. Fate of IBC 4 now lies with President. That story was on page 10 of the Standard. We shall also revisit these headlines as well with our panelists. Allow me just to zoom to the Daily Nation. It's not really aligned with there you are. Junior high, Ruto reverses Uhuru, or Uhuru's plan is what is on the front page of the Daily Nation today. Just concluded grade 6 exams will not be used for placement to JSS, as we've just observed from the Standard there. And you have CBC at a glance there. I'll save you time this morning to read it. It's well enumerated for you. The decision means that learners will remain in primary schools for 9 years, the longest in the world, as the country faces out 844 education system. That is the longest in the world. Kipruto Rapkirwa.
Well, indeed, it is the longest in the world, but what worries me a lot more is the content that we give to our children at this formative stage of their lives. Why many people are criticizing the implementation of CBC is not in terms of the content alone. It is in terms of the hurry with which it was implemented without going through the stages of piloting. Because in education, piloting is a very critical component of identifying any gaps if there are, and also taking remedial measures to ensure that those gaps are effectively sealed and the program the program is able to take off. Now, we seem to be oscillating. Even when the 844 program was started, I remember there was a word in Kiswahili called karakana that became a new word in town, and almost every primary school, every institution was trying to put up a lab, which lab later on became a bit abandoned because of disuse. So my worry is that whatever we implement, let us implement in good faith, knowing that we are building the future of this country.
Indeed, indeed.
And that, to me, is a more worrying situation.
Fantastic. We shall look at it also in her father's footsteps. We have Charlene Ruto, the president's political heir apparent. That is the question. Is Charlene Ruto the president's political heir apparent? She has been crisscrossing the country, meeting governors, MCAs, and community leaders. You can follow the story inside the Daily Nation today. 2027 factor in plot to reconstitute poll agency. With the term of Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commissioner IBC Chairperson Afula Chebukati and Commissioner Boy Molu and Abdi Guliye coming to an end in January 2023, and the remaining 4 facing President Ruto backed ouster following a recommendation by Parliament for the formation of a tribunal on their suitability. The road for a new poll agency or polls agency appears already paved. And you have the story on page 4. Kenya Kwanza to back powerful opposition office. It has been fronted by the Azimio Umoja Kenya Kwanza to back powerful office, I should say, President William Ruto's UDA party yesterday, saying it would back a proposed move by Raila Odinga's led Azimio Umoja One Kenya coalition to create the office of the official leader of opposition. That story is on page 5 of the Daily Nation this morning. I will zoom over quickly to the Star and also just look at Taifa Leo and the People Daily. The Star is holding this flash for us today. Women speak of the infertility pain, anguish. It feels like passing through the desert, no water and something to eat, only scorching sun. That is a story that you want to read about women on page 4 and 5. Remember, I was telling you about this month. It's not really related to gender-based violence, but of course also this contributes largely to some of these frictions that we have in the families as well, where women or a woman is not really blessed to really bear a child, and it sort of brings such a rift and frustration, and you need such an understanding husband. But you can read all about their anguish on page 4 and 5 of the Star this morning. Raila loses round 1 as IBC4 face unceremonious exit, and you can see their chapfallen faces there of the 4 commissioners. We have their caption reading: under siege, IBC Vice Chairperson Juliana Cherera and Commissioner Francis Wadera, Justice Nyang'aya and Irene Masit. So the card now, the wild card, is with the president. What is the way forward? We shall look at this with our panelists as well. Big win for parents as Ruto retains junior secondary school and primary schools, and MPs defy Azimio protest, approve all PS nominees. That is a Star. And you have the Pullout magazine, Siasa Pullout magazine, that is all about politics. Is Musalia Mudavadi on the road to become the Luya kingpin? That is their burning question. People Daily, CBC Shoka on grade 6, and you can read all about it as well. Xmas gift has MPs walk home with CDF billions, right? And we've seen that the Auditor General has defied the court order regarding the CDF and is gone full steam ahead to implement it. That story continues on page 6 of the People Daily this morning. And Isheki ya Ruto na Atuoli, they always say in politics we have no enemies. And now this is a handshake, and you can see the fiery brand man there, Atuoli, Rais William Ruto. It says alipokutana na katibu mkuu wa muungano wa vyama vya wafanyikazi KOTU. So looking at this picture, what would you say? Ambrose Weda. The picture speaks of 1,000 words. What do you decipher?
Yes, I can tell you that Honorable Atuoli is a real politician. I remember many times when I said I love his work as a trade unionist, but I would not take his counsel on matters politics. When he was saying, never. I'll say, as a trade unionist, I'll attend his class, his lectures. As a politician and a prophet, not him. So he has to charm his way back to Honorable Ruto, because Honorable Ruto, the president, may decide and say, Atuoli, you need to retire. And he can do a abracadabra and he will find himself out. So he has to. I remember even President Uhuru in 2013, it was not for him. And I remember one time I saw ourselves squeezing at State House, and it came and pushed, and it was on the line. So he knows where his bread is buttered. He knows how safe he stays, and he knows now he has to be close to the president, and he has work to do. But as a trade unionist, he's done a wonderful job. He's done very well. He's done great. As a political prophet, he needs laying of hands, because he can mislead men ruthlessly and arrogantly, the way he almost did, saying, oh, this president may not even be on the ballot. To the extent people thought, are you saying he's going to be dead or something? So, but that is how prophets can be, and they can get it wrong. But I think it is good for this country, where we are going. We need leaders to coalesce together. We need him to support the president and support the various activities. So that picture is good, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And it's also good for the president to have welcome Brother Atwoli, and in a hearty Christian manner, it is good for the Republic of Kenya, so that when you are elected to an office, you are not busy looking for enemies, people who didn't support you. You are just nosing around. Instead of thanking the Lord and saying, hallelujah, praise the Lord, you are looking for Kirwa, where were you? The man from Nyakach, where are you? You are just looking for enemies instead of doing the work. So I think it is good.
All right.
Yes.
I can see Kirwa, you're looking at that editorial cartoon as well.
Yeah.
You can see Atwoli now, he's got his mouth or lips stitched. And the lips, they seem to be actually tucked away in the pocket there. We can see also the other Luya politicians looking on. When you are outspoken, literally. And I was just wondering what the conversation that was in the back room there with the President Atwoli. After the President, he was abroad during the campaign period, and they say, I have no time for foolish people. So he must have also buckled down a bit and said, this was just a campaign. Rhetoric, don't take it so seriously. Everyone was really gagging to get that particular seat. But someone was called a foolish man.
Well, I think the Honorable William Ruto has learned the art of public engagement. I'm sure there must have been a lot of laughter. I would imagine, because I know them. I know Atwoli and I know William Ruto. There must have been a bit of laughter, a bit of light moments, and a bit of reminding each other that we've traveled this road. You disagreed with me, but now we are together. So I think that is the face of it. But fundamentally, what I fear about our country is that instead of consolidating our democratic gains, we seem to be losing them every other day. Why do I say so? I say so because in mature democracies, where people realize that when you are in the opposition, you are still part of the political environment of a nation. And if you are in government, you are still part of that political environment. People seem to fear being seen not to be in line with the government, especially those who are in certain high positions. The way I take it is that if you find yourself that the team that you supported has won, play your role responsibly as a member of the ruling coalition or the ruling party. If you find yourself in the opposition, also play your role, making critical analysis of issues of the day without necessarily berating the government almost at every opportunity. This is the way I see Kenya in the next 50 years or so, when our democratic gains have been properly consolidated. But today is that before the ink on the Gazette notice of various leaders in many parts of this country, those who had lost, those who had won, they were trooping. Even before William Ruto moved to State House, they were trooping to Karen, where it was official residence of the deputy president, and pledging loyalty. To me, it is reminiscent of the past, when it was one-party state. But today, we have a multiplicity of parties, and each party has a role to play. Each individual, whether you are in the opposition or in the government, you have a role to play as a good citizen of this country. You have a role to play as a leader. You have a role to play to share your experience, if you have any, and your wisdom, if you are wise at all, or lack of it. So at the end of the day, for me, trooping to State House is not an answer to many problems bedeviling our society. What we should be doing is Atwoli to play his role as a trade unionist and not feel guilty of what he said about William Ruto in the past. Because there are many things we said also. There are many things William Ruto said about certain individuals, but I don't think he still means them. Some of the people he was calling them Bure Kabisa are already working with him. And these are individuals he was calling them Bure Kabisa. So when politics is alive, and that is a politicking period, say what you may, but immediately it's over, play your role responsibly.
All right, I can just imagine the conversation there as a Kalua, you're looking at it as well. When they're in the back room, they're saying, okay, where will need a mjinga? Say, my friend, yata where will need a mwizi? Yes, so we are not even... Yeah, but your reaction as well.
Yeah, I think we live in a country where politics is a different ball game compared to other states, and where maturity of politics, we have matured in one way that's different from the world, because you get out of an election and all of a sudden you're up for a heated process of elections again. The country right now has already received messages of people who are declaring to be president in the next elections. And we throw the country, we throw ourselves into an elective mood, which must not be the situation. I take this image and many others, just like we talked about having an official office for the leader of the opposition.
Yes.
I think there is some level of maturity out of what we have gone through over time, because this is equivalent to Her Majesty's loyal opposition, where you just do not oppose for the sake of opposing, but for the common good and everyone taking their responsibility. The other thing is the fact that it is clear that when you're alive and doing things, you need to keep your enemies, you need to keep your friends very close and your supporters, but your enemies even closer, because then you're able to control or manage, because loyalty is so expensive, and Kenyans have a way of defining loyalty as opposed to what others would be, because today you start with somebody, you believe that you have managed to get a win over them, but within a very short time it is over, and people are already busy in other ways. So I think the effort to get working with Atwoli and other Atwolis, any president needs an Atwoli. That is a fact. Someone who can say things as they are, someone who can say things as he has been told what to say and go for it, someone who believes is a kingpin, someone who has been in a space that is of his own, having created it. And therefore, I think it is in order, but I agree that everyone needs to do their job, and we need to appreciate everyone in their own position for common good.
Indeed.
This is needed in Kenya.
Yeah, and it's good also to just juxtapose this of what you're saying. You need a person like Atwoli with this new development about the creation of the office of the opposition, and how Kenya Kwanza also is backing that particular move that has been projected by Azimio Umoja. What would be your reaction to this, and how then should we craft our law to accommodate this? Because there's nowhere in the Constitution where we, aside from the minority that we have in Parliament, there's no official office of the opposition.
Yes, thank you very much, Dibal. I think starting with the Atwoli issue, we seem to have forgotten as a country that when former President Uhuru Kenyatta and his then deputy William Ruto came to power in 2013, they created hell for the trade union movement in this country. You remember through then Labour Cabinet Secretary, formed the Trade Union Congress of Kenya, something that sounded like tuk-tuk. And
as an acronym.
The acronym was something like tuk-tuk. And so I think Atwoli is aware of this, all this. People may misunderstand him and think that he has abandoned his ways. I think Atwoli, at his age and position in the trade union movement, is just being strategic and saying, okay, this is the new leadership that we'll have to work with. But I do not think that he has abandoned, whatever he believed in politically. Kenya is defined in this constitution as a multi-party democratic state. And that multipartyism is not just multiplicity of political parties, but it is about the pluralism, political pluralism of ideas. And in such a pluralistic society, we need, the voices of trade unions, the voices of civil society. And of course, Atwoli is fully aware that, we have a a predatory presidency that will wax eloquent about, strong opposition, but does not believe in it. This current presidency is a bunch of contradictions that we cannot run away from. They too know themselves better than we know them, but Kenyans have quickly learned to understand them, that they say things that they may not necessarily believe in. And so I think that it's a strategic pause that Atwoli may have taken. And that again goes to the issue of the official leader of opposition. I'm glad that, those who looked for the tallest buildings in town and said all manner of things about BBI, these are the things that were in the Building Bridges initiative. And are now being, accepted across the board. And I think it's a beautiful thing. Again, in light of the fact that we have a predatory presidency that has shown without any disguise that it won't mind, reverting this country to a one-party system. We remember the failed visit to Uganda at some point, where the country was made to believe that the reason or the motivation for wanting to visit Uganda was to consult with Museveni, the president of Uganda, on how he has been able to rule the country for so long without an effective opposition. So all those things.
But how are you privy that that was?
I mean, it was said by the Kapseret MP who was accompanying then Deputy President. If we are to get our things within context, then our memories must not be so short as to have forgotten things that happened, unfolded before our own eyes. And, when accusations flew back and forth that, they were going to take businesses worth billions of shillings, assisting certain characters to secure loans, they say, no. Actually, it was not about business. It was about going to consult. And we have this on record. So those of us who, follow critically some of these things have not forgotten that the Kapseret MP said, we're just going to consult Museveni on how he has been able to stay for so long in power without effective opposition. Now that tells you about the predatory genes that, some of the people that we have in leadership may be possessing. And therefore, for me, it would be critical that we institutionalize the office of the opposition leader. We have adopted, by and large, the American model, where, the holder of the presidency does not hold any public office. But the difference between our system and the American system in terms of practice is that they hold elections for the office of president separate from that of the legislature. But if you were to follow strictly the American model, we should ideally have people who contest the presidency and lose, continue to serve. That is what John McCain, the late, continued. Obama resigned as senator after winning. Our constitution does not say you cannot contest. I do not know where these people get these ideas. Lawyers like Ambrose Aweda here, instead of properly interpreting the constitution, are busy praying, and talking about seeds and so very funny, things.
Are you underestimating the power of prayer anyway?
I'm looking for the day when I'll see Ambrose Weda carrying authorities and emerging from courts of law. I've never seen that. He only claims to be a lawyer when he's here. But have you seen any case reported that Ambrose Weda has won? I've never heard. We only get to know he's a lawyer when he's here. So these are things that, for me, in terms of the Constitution, are very clear. We need to strengthen that because a lot of Kenyans, especially during the campaigns, including the president himself, said, perhaps the country went to the dogs, things went south because there was no strong opposition. That will be important because an impression has been created that Raila was created to be in the opposition. So that if Raila had a handshake with Uhuru, the likes of Musalia Mudavadi, who is being conferred, proposed for conferment of honorary degree by Masinde Muliro University, could not, pose a serious, opposition to the government then.
Thank you.
So let's institutionalize. I like the idea. We need to support it so that individuals that garner the second most largest number of votes, like it happened in 2022, can have an office that is recognized. And I like some of the ideas around it of, being empowered to also make proposals to appointment of constitutional officers and so on and so forth, because that is what will deter the kind of, a migration we are seeing, people wanting to associate with the president because he at the moment is the only one who has, carrots to dangle. Yeah.
Right, so we have page 5 of the Daily Nation, UDA to check or to back creation of opposition office, and this is the sentiment of the chairman, who says that I have not heard of any approach to our side to support that bill, but if that request comes to me, I will sanction it. What does it really take, and what is the bill so far that I'm not privy to it also myself, but does it need to amend the constitution anyway to create this particular office?
It has to. It has to. The only difference is that it will not require. It may not require a referendum.
It may not require a referendum.
Yeah,
that's
but
what I want
through the parliamentary initiative.
Okay. Okay. Let's hear from Ambrose Weda.
Thank you so much, Debal. You see, when my brother thinks that winning a case, they see lawyers who admitted yesterday. Some of us have been around for the last 28 years. So if you want to know me, you ask my peers. You don't ask activists in the street. That aside, you cannot create a public office like the opposition, leader of opposition. That would be altering the structure of government, and therefore the structure of the state, the structure of government. And that would require a referendum.
It will require a referendum.
Oh, yes, yes. Anytime you're going to tinker with the structure.
That's what I thought.
Even if you want to remove just one MCA, you say now there will be no MCAs, there will be MCD or something, referendum. In fact, let me tell you, nearly, strict interpretation, nearly every fundamental thing in this constitution, you would require a referendum. That's how it was drawn. And it is good for all of us, so that when people sneak in BBIs and so on and so forth, the Kenyan people would have a say. On the question of strong opposition or office of the opposition, I've heard my brother from Nyakach quoting Sudi. You must remember there are people who sometimes they just want to put salt or pili in the wound. So when you ask them, what did you go to do in Uganda? In Uganda, they say, we just went there to find out how we rule for long, so that it hurts some people. But if you keep on praying for it, prayer works. If you keep on praying for a dictator, praying for somebody who will stay long in power, it may just come to pass. So let's not talk about, this one is going to stay long in power, this one wants to be like Museveni. Kenya is exclusively different from Uganda. Kenyan people are very peaceful, but can be very resilient. We have a very robust judiciary that will scatter certain things. And we have strong people like Suba Churchill here on, as human rights defenders and so on and so forth. So it will not be a smooth sail. If Honorable the President Museveni was brought here in Kenya, he would find it extremely difficult. I don't think Honorable Museveni is as entrenched as President Moi was. So let's not pray that one will turn into a day. Let's pray that we'll have our elections after 5 years, after 10 years, a new generation comes and we keep on moving. And anybody who's trying to tinker with it We wait when we reach that time. We meet and say the Bal must have a chance at being president. But he must also be sent to go and tell your leader that there must come a time when the nation is bigger than individual. There comes a time when the general is pulled out of the military camp. Not pushed, but pulled out. So some people will be deliberately trying to pull out your general. Say, General, it is time also to let go. We are reaching a level where liberating the country from the liberators is turning out to be a very big task. Those who liberated the country have now turned into what would be called in French Okinja. They are holding the baton, and their hands are permanently holding. They don't want to let go. We may have to break their hands to get the baton. Liberating the country from the liberators is becoming a big task. So we are sending you, Ali, and say, we are prepared to break the hands to get the baton. And we will get it.
Dr. Isaac Alua, let's hear from you.
I wonder who the imaginary my imaginary leader is. I don't know.
You know, Debal, Kenyans are going through quite a lot of things, a lot of pain. Kenyans' expectation has been extremely high. The cost of living continues to remain high. Kenyans are waiting for that moment and that focus of leaders to deal with the real issues that really concern them. They are waiting to see when the cost of maize will go down. There are things that we are losing when we start discussing and bringing them to the fore. There is no question, it's a no-brainer, the importance of everyone playing their role, and particularly at the government level. There is nothing wrong, and it is even unprecedented that a president in power says that he wants to be checked on what he is doing. I have talked about using opposition to be able to bring things in place in the best way possible. Our constitution has brought out the best that has not been done in many countries, where a lot of activities, a lot of funding is devolved, and therefore development can run. And we need to therefore start focusing, remove the eyes on the president, and we start looking at the systems that have been brought by our own constitution. At the county level, what is not happening? At the MCA level, what are they supposed to be doing that can help us? I wish that our nation can go to that level. We are concentrating more on where things are not and leaving where things are. And this is where we really need to start focusing as a nation. So this is my take on this, that we need to strengthen the institutions that we have. We need to focus on leadership. We need to ensure that everyone takes their role. Expectations are very high, Debal and my team members, very high. And people are hoping that something extraordinary is going to happen. But it seems the more they think about that, the more they find that it is business as usual. You find a normal person in the streets, it tells you, afadhali bwana ningeendea 6,000, sasa inaonekana nilienda for 500 shillings, or even less than that. But that's not the focus. We need to look at the bigger picture. How do we take this into place so that we can be affected in the best way possible? And that can only happen if we take our leaders on or into account. Into account. Yes.
And does it take also taking our leaders into account to having an opposition that is institutionalized? Can they just play an effective role like they have been doing so far? Instead of actually institutionalizing
it is taking it to the next level.
And this also will draw from the exchequer. We as taxpayers will have to fund that particular office.
What is the meaning of opposition compared to other countries? Is it just to criticize for the sake of criticizing?
Good question. I think that will be the question that we shall pose on the other side of a break. We want to take a short break right now. When we circle back, we continue with that. What does it really take to institutionalize the opposition in this country? Do we have the requisite finances to draw from the exchequer to actually fund this particular office? And what are some of the dynamics of creating this particular office as far as the constitution is concerned? That, as we've heard from Ambrose Uweda, it will tinker with, of course, what we're calling the basic structure of the constitution. And if it changes the shape of the constitution, it calls for a referendum. Do we have money for that? That's another question. We take a short break.